Hello everyone. Tonight we are working on Module 1, Lesson 15, and we will be dividing decimals again, and we'll be using place value understanding, and we will have remainders. Again, not a remainder in the answer, but a remainder in places, and we'll be figuring out how to work with those. We'll start off with 1 7/10 divided by 2. So I'm going to use my place value discs to show where my units go. I've got 1 in the ones place. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I put these in groups of 2 just so it would be easy, once again, to circle my group since I'm dividing by 2. Now, what we have here is the situation where I can't actually divide the ones place because I don't have a group of 2. So of course I'm going to move that next door, and I'm going to call this 17/10 instead of 1 7/10 by adding 10 more discs to the tenths column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have a total of 17/10 now, and I can start circling my groups of 2. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups of 2, and then I've got this 1 left over. Now in 4th grade, we would have just stopped here and said, okay, my answer is 8/10 with a remainder of 2. But in 5th grade, I used to say we would never have remainders, but every once in a while we'll work with a remainder in a number. But today is not that day. I've got this 1/10 left over, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and move that over to the hundredths place. And that means that now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the hundredths place. And of course we all know that 10 is evenly divisible by 2. And when I put 10 into groups of 2, then we have 5 groups. So now I've got a 0 in the ones place, an 8 in the tenths place, and a 5 in the hundredths place. So my answer to 1 7/10 divided by 2 is going to be 85 hundredths. Okay, the standard algorithm will look like this. 1 7/10 divided by 2. And I cannot take any groups of 2 out of 1 in the ones place, so I'm going to, just like I did over here, I'm going to think of this as 17/10. And so I know that my answer is going to be in tenths too. I can get 8 groups of 2 out of 17/10. That would be 8/10, and that 8 is in the tenths place. So 8/10 times 2 will be 16/10, also known as 1 6/10. And when I subtract, I have 1/10 left over. And all I'm going to do now is move, when I moved this 1/10 over here to the hundredths place to become 10 hundredths, I'm going to do the same thing in my standard algorithm by bringing down an invisible 0. I'm changing that 1/10 into 10 hundredths. And now, of course, I can divide by 2. 10 hundredths divided by 2 will be 5 hundredths. And when I subtract, 5 hundredths times 2 is 10 hundredths, and I have 0 left over. So my answer, I'm going to put a 0 here in the ones place just so they look the same, and I have the same answer. All right, now it's your turn. You're going to take 2 6/10 divided by 4. You can use the standard algorithm, use a place value chart if it's easier for you, or if you want to use the standard algorithm and check yourself with the place value chart, you can do that. All right, here's a fun one. We're going to take 17 and divide it by 4. So I'm going to put place value dots or discs into the places where they belong. I've got 1 in the tens place. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the ones place. And for now, I have no discs in the tenths or the hundreds place. Now, of course, I'm going to have to move this disc that's in the tens place over, that's in the tens place over to the ones place because I can't divide 1 by 4. So I'm taking that 110 and I'm turning it into 10 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I should have a total of 17 in the ones place now. And I'm going to group those into 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got 1 left over. So I have 4 groups and 1 left over. Let's move over here and kind of do the algorithm simultaneously. So 17 divided by 4. I can't get any 4s out of that 1, so I'm thinking of it as 17 ones instead of 110. And of course, 4 times 4 is 16. So I subtract, and I have 1 left over. And here it is, right here. Now I'm going to move that 1 over to the tenths place, and 1 whole is equal to 10 tenths. So I'll make the place value discs for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I see that I can make 2 groups of 4 over here. 1, 2, and I have 2 left over. So moving back to my algorithm, I need to turn this 1 that's left over after I subtracted into 10 tenths. And I do that by making one of the invisible zeros to the right of my 17 visible. And then I bring it down and I turn that 1 whole into 10 tenths. Now I know that I can get 2 groups of 4 out of 10 tenths, and this will be 2 in my tenths place, so it's 2 tenths. 2 tenths times 4 is 8 tenths. And when I subtract, I've got 2 tenths left over, just like I do in my place value chart. So of course my next step is to take this 2 tenths and move them over to the hundredths place. And 2 tenths will become 20 hundredths. 1, 1, whoops, let me see if I can get my stylus to work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I am going to circle my groups of 4. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have 0 left over. So now I'm going to move back to my standard algorithm. And instead of thinking of this as 2 tenths, I'm going to think of it as 20 hundredths by putting a 0 in the hundredths place, bringing it down, and my 2 tenths turns into 20 hundredths. And we all know that 20 divided by 4 is 5. And we're working in the hundredths place right now. This 5 right here is in the hundredths place. So that's 5 hundredths times 4 will be 20 hundredths. I subtract, and I'm at 0. So that means that I am finished. So the answer to 17 divided by 4 will be 4 and 25 hundredths. I got the answer with the standard algorithm, and I also got it in my place value chart. Now it's your turn. 22 divided by 8. Use whatever method works best for you. Check yourself carefully. As soon as you get to a zero remainder, you know it's time to stop. Now we're going to do 7 and 7/10 divided by 4. And I'm only going to use the standard algorithm because we really want to move on to using that. But if you need to use the place value chart so to help it make sense to you, feel free to do that. So 7 and 7/10 divided by 4. 4 will go into 7 ones one time, and 1 times 4 is 4. I'll subtract, and I have 3 left over. So I'm going to have to turn that 3 into 30 tenths, and I'll also bring down that 7. So now I have 37 tenths, and I'm going to put my decimal up here to show that I'm working with tenths now. And I know that 9 times 4 is 36, so 9 tenths times 4 will be 36 tenths. I'll subtract, and I have 1/10 left over. I can't stop yet because I don't want a remainder. I want to keep going until I have 0 at the bottom of my algorithm. So instead of thinking of this as 1/10, I'm going to think of it as 10 hundredths. And I'm going to bring one of those invisible zeros down. So now I have 10 hundredths, and I know that 4 will go into 10 two times. 2 hundredths times 4 will be 8 hundredths. Oops, and it looks like I'm going to run out of room on my screen. 10 hundredths minus 8 hundredths, I'm going to move up here, will be 2 hundredths. So I still have a remainder. And this is getting kind of sloppy because I didn't have enough room. So now what I want to do is think of this as 20 thousandths instead of 2 hundredths by bringing this 0 down here. And now, a 20. I know that 20 is divisible by 4, so I'm at the end. 5 thousandths times 4 will be 20 thousandths. And when I subtract, I have a 0 remainder at last. So my answer is right up here, 1 and 925 thousandths. Now it's your turn. You're going to divide 54 hundredths by 4. Before you write your answer down, review the lesson if you need to. Use a place value chart if you need to check yourself. And do your best. I'll see you in class tomorrow.